and welcome to the Big Apple School Podcast, the weekly English show where we speak about everything under the sun. The major goal of this show is to help you improve your English and, of course, learn something new. My name's Katja, I'm your host, and today with me...
I'm Gary.
And...
I'm Benjamin.
So, we're doing our best to be as useful to you as possible, dear listeners. And you know what? We would love to get some feedback about it. So subscribe to our pages on Apple, SoundCloud, Yandex, any platform that you listen to our podcast on. So let us know what you think about our show. Rate and review our show. Leave us comments, stars, and feel free to send your ideas about our next episodes. It won't take much time or effort, right? But we will really appreciate it. So now we are going to start talking about something really topical, healthcare. So, and I think the most logical maybe question then that I can ask you is, what is the healthcare system like in your countries?
Well, in the UK, we have the NHS, the National Health Service, and that was established in, I believe, 1948. This was just after the Second World War, when there were a lot of soldiers who needed care because they had injuries from the war, etc. And this has been with us ever since. It's a publicly funded healthcare service. There are pros and cons to it, but the great thing is that if you ever get injured, you can get free healthcare at any time.
Wait, what about before 1940?
I think it was 1948. So before then, I think everything was a private system. I think you had to pay for doctors.
So basically, if you're poor, you're dead.
Kind of. Well, it depends what your illness is. So if you have polio or tuberculosis, then good luck to you. But yeah.
So, all right.
Not to laugh about polio or tuberculosis.
Yeah, not to laugh. Yeah,
Yes.
Definitely not.
So, and what about the US? Briefly.
Well, I think we could summarize it by saying we don't have a national health service, and that makes a gigantic difference. The word that comes to mind about the American system is patchwork.
I thought you would say capitalism, but...
Well, let's just call it patchwork. And right, if you want to be an economist, call it capitalism, but let's just call it patchwork, which means that it is because of capitalism, I guess, and some of the ways that Americans think about their government. We don't totally trust anything much to the government except defense and certain basic things. So we don't want to do medicine that way. And it makes the system extremely inefficient and very patchwork. When I say patchwork is the idea of like when maybe somebody makes a quilt, right, that you're going to sleep under, and you take pieces of this and piece of that, piece of cloth, an old piece of jeans material, and a piece from an old dress, and you sew it together, and there it is. It's one system, but it's made up of innumerable parts that don't work very well together, and depending on where you are in your economic life and so forth, your position, you can be doing well under the system and have a great system, and you can also be doing pretty badly. So
when you say that there's no national health service, does that mean that it's only privately owned clinics? So are there like public holiday hospitals?
Yeah, there's all kinds of systems. There's federal, as far as funding systems, right? It's I guess it's mostly the funding, the money comes from a lot of it comes from the federal government, but the organization of it is by the market, as they say, which means, again, capitalism, and it means that there are a lot of different ways that, let's say there's 6 hospitals in a small city, and that means that one of them might have its origins in maybe a church, some kind of like the Catholic Church. Another might have all different kinds of systems, and they'll get some funding from the city, some from the county, some from the state, some from the federal, right? But it's a very difficult system and hard for people to understand. And depending on, again, where you are, if you have, I don't want to get it, because it's so complicated. That's why I'll just stay with the word patchwork, which means it's kind of a mess and it's not very effective. It spends huge amounts of money, and yet the level of people's care on average is not great. I think it's the country something like 22nd in the world as far as, normal measures. It's rather low.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's while it's spending, probably 50% more than anybody else per capita. And so it's just incredibly inefficient and sort of poor results unless you're at the top, and then the system's great. I mean, they've got research.
Yeah, because that's the upside to the American healthcare service is that, well, not service, but services, is that they lead the world in in research and a lot of people from not a lot of people, but sometimes there are famous news stories where people with rare illnesses in the UK beg to go to the US because it's so that's the upside, but the downside is that it's so expensive for the average citizen.
Right. Yeah, it's rough. It's too expensive. I mean, especially if your insurance, paying for insurance is, I guess that's the next question, but it's very, very expensive.
So what happened after the Second World War with all the injured soldiers in America? Were they taken care by the military? Or?
Yeah, there's an entire system. Again, it's another one of these systems that is federally funded, and it's totally actual independent hospital system called VA, Veterans Administration. And it would have probably arisen at that time. I don't know the history of it, but I mean, it's got its own everything. And so if somebody was in the military at any point in their life, then they qualify for VA. And it's not as good as, some of the private systems, but...
I also think that, soldiers coming back from war, it's not, a usual case. I mean, this was at the time something, well, I don't even know how to express that, topical at the time. So it's like COVID right now. So we know that the US healthcare system is so expensive, and getting, any kind of help is expensive. But I know that now people who have COVID, they don't have to pay for, being in a hospital, for example, and things like that. They do get the bills, but then usually, they don't have to pay them, at least not most of it.
I think that's true. I hope it's true.
Well,
I think it's true.
I don't know about every single case,
sure,
but most of them now, well, again, there are always, a lot of details into it. But for example, if you have no insurance or you have an insurance from a big company, you're covered. You are covered.
Right.
But if you have an insurance with a small company, then you have to apply for something, for some kind of a, help, because the small companies, cannot afford paying for every single patient.
Right. It's just, I don't even know how, I mean, it's so complicated that we'd have to be here all day to just try to understand some parts of the patchwork. I mean, it really is, it's inefficient, but it's also got some of the advantages of, there's so much money in the system because, everything is so expensive that, you can spend money on research, you can spend money on, latest technologies and all of this, which is great. But if you can't get insurance, or if it's just too expensive, it's taking too much of your income, or the company can't afford it, or whatever the thing is, which is the case for, a significant number of people. So it's just not, I don't know. Nobody would call it a great system as it is.
So, obviously we could be talking about this for hours, but what do you think the solution is? I mean, everyone has their own opinion on this, because in England or the UK, the National Health Service probably would not exist if it were not for the Second World War. So the reason why it exists is because there was the impetus there to create such a service, because there were so many injured people.
Yeah.
If that had not been there, then perhaps the NHS would not exist.
Yeah. Well, in the United States, oddly, for a little history of this that I know, but our system, which companies used to provide and still do, like more than 50% or something, companies pay for their employees' health care. That came out of World War II.
Yeah.
And it came out of the fact that wages were fixed during the war, right? Because you can't have prices of a lot of things. They had were fixed, which is not how the American system works. It is a market. But what employers could do to compete to attract personnel was they could offer benefits like healthcare, which then the system was not expensive, right? So that a company could provide healthcare for their employees, and it wasn't a backbreaker like it is now. And now it's extremely expensive.
I can give an example. So, for example, the first year that I was in the US, I don't even know what kind of insurance I had because it was provided by the Fulbright grant, so we didn't have to worry about that. But the second year, my employer paid for my insurance, and I found out that it was, for 9 months, it was around $6,000, which is a lot. But that, I knew that would cover almost anything, and when that year I had to go to the ER. After that, I got the bill for like $1,000. I didn't pay any of it except for the copay, which was $50. But the next year, I had to find an insurance on my own because my employer could not provide it, for legal reasons. So, and the cheapest one that I found that would, cover at least something, should something happen, was around $150 per month. And that was considered...
That's extremely cheap, yeah.
Yeah.
That's like impossible. Yeah, that must have had no coverage and a $10,000.
Yeah, because that was the one I had when I was living in Vegas. I paid about $150 a month, but the copay would be, if anything happened to me, I'd be paying up to $20,000.
Yeah, something like that.
Luckily, within my time in the US, I didn't have, the need to go and check this out.
You could have returned from your visit to the United States with a gigantic debt. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That I actually know people who
I suppose it could happen.
To go through that.
Yeah.
But I remember when I found out how expensive the insurance is, during my second year, I was talking to our administrator and I said, I really hope that nothing happens to me. She's like, Katya, if I were you, I would use this insurance to the max since, the employer pays for it. You need any kind of tests, do it. It's going to be covered.
And don't worry, they're ready to give you the tests. It doesn't even matter. Right?
The thing, I remember when because that year I was living in a dorm, and since I was living in a dorm, I had to have certain, vaccines, like measles and whatnot. And I had all of them covered, because I'm responsible. So, but there was one missing, the shot that you can't get in Russia. So they're like, well, we need to do that. I'm like, yeah, okay. How much is it? They're like, oh, it's covered by the insurance. I'm like, go for it. I'm ready.
Right.
Whatever that is. So, but yeah.
So they would check you before. So you need to show all your vaccination certificates or?
Yes. Since I was going to live in a dorm, I had to provide all the information on my vaccination history.
And what if you lost your certificate?
Well, before coming to the US, you'd better find, the info on it.
Oh, right. Didn't realize that.
But yeah, usually we have some kind of...
Right. Check your list. Yeah, right. Yes. Let's see.
So yeah, and I remember I had one shot missing, but I got it in Russia because in Russia you get them for free. You don't have to pay for it. It's provided. Speaking of, actually, how much do you know and what do you know about Russian medical system?
Well, I know you have a baseline free system, but a lot of people tend to go private here. Is that?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I believe. So,
if you can afford it, yeah. Right. I mean, yeah.
Gary, anything to add?
Well, I don't want to speak ill of.
Well, if you don't, I will. Come on.
Okay.
Well, I mean, at least there is there's like a basic level of care. At least you can get an ambulance and not have to worry about it, generally speaking.
Yes.
Well, you just have to worry about the ambulance.
Hope the driver doesn't crash on ice or something.
Right. Yes, please.
I mean, at least Russia does have that, which is a baseline, which is something to be grateful for nonetheless. I mean, I guess in that sense, it's more comfortable than living in America for basic healthcare. I guess, like if you break your leg, you're not going to end up with a huge bill.
Oh, no.
So in that sense, for emergency healthcare, I guess perhaps maybe it's better to live here.
Well,
I haven't broken my leg yet. I don't really.
Well, I hope you won't.
Yeah, let's
Please don't.
Please keep it that way. Right? Keep up your good record.
Yeah,
there.
But actually, you're absolutely right. We do have free medical care, so we have public hospitals, and in general, I would say that when it comes to some emergency, you don't have to worry. So if you break a bone, you're covered.
Yeah.
It's fine. But again, as you said, it's absolutely correct that we tend to go to private hospitals. Why? Because unfortunately, doctors in public hospitals are not paid enough. They are not paid at all, basically, because it's just such a miserable salary that they get. So most of them tend to move to private sector. And because there they have potential, they have opportunities to improve, to study, to get a decent salary, to, provide for their families. So, and that's why we tend to go to private
Right,
clinics.
if you can afford it, but a lot of people can't afford it.
Exactly, exactly. So,
Well, how much would a GP, a general practitioner, doctor get in Russia in the public system?
I don't even ask. Yeah.
I think it's around the minimum, like 15,000 per month.
Oh, really?
Which is
Yeah.
sad.
You get 15,000,
15, yes.
rubles, yeah.
but
Which
you
is
can't
nothing.
even rent an apartment
You
with
can't. That's the thing.
Right.
So it's absolutely,
And you have a tremendous caseload, right? It's not like you're not seeing patients or
Yeah.
something. It's
the workload is horrible.
And
that.
there
Do you have accommodation provided, stuff like that?
Nothing
No?
like that.
So how do you live?
You survive.
Yeah.
That's what you do, basically. So people have to either rent rooms or, they hope.
Or they have their apartment. People here tend to have their apartment one way or another. And
Yeah.
that's
But yeah, the conditions that they work in are just,
they're bad. It's bad.
They are.
And specialists, if you need anything beyond your therapist, your GP,
Yeah.
it's bad. I mean, there just are not. The city system is
yeah. So I'm afraid people, sometimes
Poor.
borrow money to get some kind of, to go to a specialist in a private clinic.
or they just fight the system. I mean, there's as I understand it, there's like quotas for certain things. And,
There are. But then
and-
again, how much time do you have? If you have the time. But
Yeah, well.
honestly, I don't want to speak ill of anyone who is working in the medical
mercy,
sector,
no. Yeah,
but
no, they're working on dedication is what
I
they're
tend to
working on.
mistrust the results and some of the doctors in the public sector. Why? Because I have a bright example, So my dad had, for about a year, he had some pains in his leg. He visited the local GP in his public clinic next to...
In Yakutia.
No, here in Novosibirsk already. So, and they told him, well, it might be the old age. You need to exercise more. There's nothing, they had all kinds of tests. Nothing. So they're like, exercise. So he did. It started to get worse. So he tried several doctors in public sector. Everyone said, you're fine. Well, it must be something, Only then, one single doctor sent him to a private doctor in a private clinic who, sent him to get the right tests. And it turned out to be cancer in its terminal stage. So it was already too late. 1 year, we lost 1 year.
Wow.
That could have changed the whole story.
Wow.
So after that, when my mom had some kind of health problem, she's like, I'm not going to the public sector. No way. So for some basic things, if you have some kind of a cold or flu, yes. Because, in this case, it's fine. But she's like, anything out of the ordinary? No. Mm-mm.
So the process of diagnosing things in the public service isn't particularly good.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're used to just handling a lot of, huge patient load, and it's just sort of some people you can just tell them, well, it's just age. What do you expect? You're X age.
Yeah.
You're gonna hurt. Things are gonna. You're not young anymore.
Yeah, it's not because the doctors themselves are bad.
No,
it's
the
because
doctors are a lot of times they're doing the best they can.
I
it's
also, in
resources.
a public sector, they're given around 8 minutes per patient.
Right, that's the
What exactly can you find out within 8 minutes?
right, like nothing. Yeah.
But actually, a lot of places now, a lot of companies provide insurance for their workers that covers private clinics. not public, but private. So usually, you can get this insurance after 3 or 4 years of working. So that, you don't get it straight away in most of the companies. And then the further you work, the longer you work, the better the insurance is.
Yeah.
So let's say my sister has been working in a company for 11 years now. Her insurance is fantastic. So she has to pay, let's say 10% of, each visit or each procedure, but it's not much, if you look on a bigger scale. And they have an opportunity to get the same insurance for their immediate family, so that being parents, children, and parents. Sisters, unfortunately, do not qualify, which is very sad because I really hoped I would be able to.
All right.
But yeah, so some of the companies do provide that.
I would say some of the companies, but companies that you would think would be doing this are not doing this, because I know people.
Yeah,
And so
definitely. Not even most of it, but some of the companies.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's... I don't know if it's an exception, but I don't know what the rule is, but I certainly know people that do not have good coverage or no coverage, or they're just in the public system, and that's not a great place to be.
Speaking of price, I actually have a little quiz, which, it would be actually fun if we had somebody who hasn't been to the US over here, because, but anyway. So I'm going to name certain types of procedures, and you can try to guess how much that would cost averagely. And I use the prices for Massachusetts, so because
that
prices,
sounds fun.
Prices can vary.
I like
now that it's
this.
about Massachusetts,
Well, I mean,
right, it picked up.
because I do not.
Smile came across both of our faces. Susan,
Actually, I have a question to both of you. So, do prices vary greatly from state to state? Because I do not know.
They vary in the states. They vary. I mean, it's again, it's part of the complete mess. And even one person can go to two different hospitals, same city, and it's just completely different.
So when I was looking up information, I got the minimum, I got the maximum from different sources, and got the average.
Okay.
So that it's not the minimum, not the max.
All right.
So what about, let's say, shoulder or knee X-ray?
So we're supposed to guess, and it's Massachusetts.
$400.
Less than that. It's just.
I would have gone about 400. Maybe, I don't know, 200.
Yeah, it's around 200 on
Ding,
average.
ding, ding.
Now,
do I get anything?
You get the free
I get to
X-ray.
go to Massachusetts.
wait, you did not guess right. You don't get any kind of brownies points right now. But what about Russia then? So private sector in Russia, same procedure.
Oh, I guess $20.
And you're absolutely right. It is.
Is it $20?
Yeah.
All right. I'm getting a free X-ray,
Okay, so you're
VIP
good. Yeah.
X-ray.
I'm going to count, the points.
Yeah.
Whoever wins.
But I get the trip to Massachusetts, so I'm way ahead. Yeah, right. Yes.
Okay.
Enjoy your X-ray. That's what I'm.
It's like, they're joking now, like, what do you want to get for your birthday? And you're like, full MRI, please.
Yeah, right.
Speaking of, how much do you think an MRI is? Full body MRI.
Wow.
In Russia.
Or in the United States,
Oh,
in
you-
Massachusetts, right?
that's
Well, okay.
That's a lot.
I can just tell you, the average for the Massachusetts, and then you'll try to guess how much it is in Russia. So in Massachusetts, average price for MRI is $300, and
Boy, I'm surprised it's that cheap.
Yeah, I thought it'd be more expensive than that.
Definitely.
well,
You sure about that
A
one?
full body MRI or just like your head or something.
it's said to be full body MRI. Of course, there are prices like $1,500, but it depends on the
Well,
hospital.
maybe there are different. There's probably different fees in that bill
Might
that haven't
be,
been
might be.
incorporated. So the actual use of the machine itself is $300, but you probably have to pay for
for being there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you want us to run the machine without you? $300.
Right. Would you
Do
like
you want
us
to be?
turn the machine on or not? We've done a study and found that the results are much better when we turn the machine on. That'll be another $300. But it's up to you.
That sounds about right.
America. You have freedom of choice.
So what about Russia? Well, Novosibirsk, because prices in Moscow tend to be higher.
Well, I'd say probably $70.
No, higher than that, more.
Okay, well, see, thank you, Ben, for...
Starting the...
I'm going for the free body MRI here, so let's see. It's like a game show. It turns into a game show. I don't know. It would have to be, $150?
$150, yeah.
Oh, wow.
150.
Wow.
Exactly. So it's around 12,000 rubles as of now. So yes,
Well, that would
still not something that, many people can afford, just on the go. But,
as much as can't afford all the
What about-
MRI.
what about an inhaler?
Oh, for asthma.
Uh-huh.
Well, that's a good question, actually. You don't have asthma, Gary, do you?
No, I don't. Yeah, I don't.
Do you have asthma?
No, luckily.
Do you?
No.
Okay.
Thus, we do not know the prices for an inhaler.
We can call somebody that has asthma. Yeah,
Yeah.
You can just
It'll
guess.
be great.
Well, in
great
the
podcasting.
US, it's apparently around 300.
Okay.
What about Russia?
Boy, for an inhaler. Okay.
the
Let me go
simple
on.
one, the
I'll
Go on, you go first this time.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
You
that's
go
right.
first.
You've been doing great. I'm.
Phone a friend.
Yeah, right. That's right.
Ask the audience.
I don't know. $40?
Ben?
Let's go with 90.
$4
$4
or $5 for a simple inhaler for asthma. $4 or $5.
Oh, $4 or $5?
Yeah, 4, 5.
Oh, geez.
So
It's pretty.
it's around starting with 300 rubles and then more. But yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So, okay, I've got 2 more. So, well, I'm not going to ask you about calling an ambulance because we know in the US it's a couple of thousand. In Russia, it's 0.
Yeah.
What about a pack of 2 EpiPens? So in the US right now, as of this year, the average...
You mean for diabetes?
For allergies.
Oh, for allergies. Okay.
So the average in the US right now is 600 for 2.
Oh, that's a lot.
$600.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Let's go with 50.
No, more than that.
See, I don't know, 100?
260.
Oh.
Okay.
So that means that they're
If you
buying
have-
it from somewhere else, right?
I
assume the reason the
yes.
inhalers are $4 or $5 that there's some Russian.
Yes, but EpiPen tends to be something that is imported into Russia.
So the Sputnik EpiPen. or the,
Right, yes.
yeah.
Right.
Oh my. Okay, one last one. Childbirth.
Oh, boy.
Oh, in America, it's probably, I don't know, you can pay about $7,000 for that. $7,000 a
Sounds
pop.
like a good,
7.
Yeah.
7, yeah.
It starts at 10.
Oh, wow.
And then it can go up to 40,000. Yeah, for a baby.
For
Can you imagine?
Just one
Can you-
baby. Yeah.
Just one. What if you have twins?
That's right.
Do you,
All right, well,
Forget about
do you have a bigger bill for twins?
Yeah, how do they handle that?
if I were to give birth in America, I would just have to go to my garden
Ben,
shed or
if you-
something.
Ben, if you gave birth in America
Yeah.
or Russia, it would be quite an event.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. Right.
Oh, for sure. But what about Mother Russia? So
Well, that's
Wow.
free, isn't it?
yeah, in public
Yeah.
service. Yeah,
Well, I
public.
believe there's a big push to, well, I believe the Russian government wants people to have more babies here. So I believe it's,
Oh yeah, there have been all types of talking, in the government as to taxing women over 23 who do not have children. There have been a talk of sending women over 23 who do not have children to the army. So
that's cool.
Yeah, that sounds progressive.
That's,
that's what now?
Yeah. So you do it.
The moment they do that, I'm getting out of here. Like the very same day. I'm like, bye.
I want to see you in Sluzhba. That'll be,
Yeah, that's
I don't. Thank you very much. Oh no. So Ben, I have a question. So after living in the US and seeing all these prices and paying for the insurance, did that make you more grateful about the NHS?
yeah, to be honest, yes. Previously, I used to moan a little bit about the NHS, and then you realize it's actually a really good system. The only trouble with it is that it could collapse at any moment
Why so?
because it is so deeply in debt that if
Oh,
the UK government doesn't get its act together at some point, how on earth is it going to continue on in the future? So that's the big problem with the NHS. So it's great you can not worry about breaking a leg and get an ambulance, or yeah, that's great. But at the end of the day, hopefully it survives.
Well, let's
And
hope so.
The last time I checked, I mean, I don't keep up to date with the figures, but it's billions upon billions of pounds in debt. And one day, perhaps the UK government might default on its loans, and who knows, it might collapse.
Well, let's hope it doesn't.
Well, that would be a
that
negative.
sounds
Well,
scary.
let's
That'd be
call that a
negative,
negative. Yeah,
So
potential negative. Yeah.
Yes, it's a huge potential negative.
Yeah.
There are other systems which perhaps are better. For instance, the Dutch system, where every citizen has to pay, I believe, €80 a month, but everything's free after that. That seems maybe a little bit more sustainable.
Yeah, well, it's probably has to do with the overall level of taxation. They're probably funding it from other places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know, for instance, cigarettes in the UK are crazy expensive. Last time I checked was a few years ago. A 20-pack costs, or at least in central London, I think some Marlboro Lights would cost about £16.
Yep, sounds about right.
So that's 1,600 rubles.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of that is tax, and that goes to the NHS.
But let's be fair. If it is so expensive, maybe, hopefully, fewer people will smoke.
It would have. I mean, I'm sure fewer people are smoking, right? I mean, just
because if I had to, because in Russia there are so many people who smoke, let's say half a pack a day even.
Yeah.
But then if you do the calculation, if you do that in the UK, £16 per day just on,
Oh yeah, so half a pack, that's 800 rubles.
It's like, no. Yeah.
Right. I mean, it's what you'd have to really want to smoke, right?
Yeah.
I know that in the US, it's also relatively expensive. It's around.
It's extremely.
It's much cheaper than the UK, though.
Yeah,
well, it's like
it is.
10,
yeah, to me, it's like $10 a pack.
$10, $12
In
a
Vegas,
pack.
you can
which
find
is
packs
absurd.
for-
I mean,
Yeah.
I actually remember. So my dad was a smoker, and when I went to London, he's like, "Can you bring me a pack of cigarettes just to compare?" So I brought him a pack of cigarettes, and he's like, "Ooh, it's such a different texture and everything." And we got the same brand of Marlboro, and then he was like, "How much was it?" I'm like, £12. And he's like, "Okay." Then it dawned on him, like, wait a second. Is it more than 1,000? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I'm gonna smoke one cigarette per month out of this pack.
Yeah, it's a luxury.
Yeah, but it's so expensive.
Yeah.
We once were joking, like, if we counted and calculated the whole, the amount of money my dad spent on cigarettes throughout his life, I think he would be able to buy a car.
Oh yeah,
with that.
Yeah, smoking is expensive.
Smoking for 49 years, at some moment, a pack a day. Yeah, that would.
Yes.
A lot.
It depends on the price of the cigarettes, but I don't know what is a pack of cigarettes now here? 150 rubles?
Yeah, someone said it was about that.
Yeah, I think like that.
Which is still, that's not totally cheap. That's still $2 a pound. I mean, I remember when
that's £1.50. If you said that to anyone in London who smoked,
just laugh.
Yeah,
they would be. Oh, it would be.
Yeah, I'll take 3
dream.
cartons.
Well, my friend in the US was a smoker. And while she was a smoker, every time I went there, she's like, "Bring me cigarettes." Jesus, okay. So, and apparently you're allowed to bring 2 blocks. So
2 bricks, I think they're called. Yeah, a brick of cigarettes is.
It's like 10 packs?
Yeah. We call them a carton. Yeah.
A carton, a brick.
Yeah.
We call them a block.
A block. That's very
A block,
sort of descriptive. Right. A square, a rectangle.
Do you think that people who smoke or people who lead an unhealthy lifestyle should pay more for their insurance and more for the healthcare?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the United States, they do.
If you smoke, you have a higher premium.
Yeah, definitely. Add that to the price. Add that to the $10 a pack of cigarettes. I mean, it's just sort of, you really got to be addicted or love smoking or whatever it is.
And that's the problem the NHS faces. So, for instance, if you're severely overweight,
right.
How are you going to? I mean, they obviously have they take a higher toll on the NHS, and how are you going to factor that in? So it's kind of.
Well, it's simple to factor. It's simple to factor it in. If it's universal, you just just treat people, What's complicated in the United States is, okay, well, you have to factor that in and keep all kinds of records to figure out what is the risk. And so you've got all these different insurance companies and you got the government. And I mean, it's just incredibly complicated. What it is in Britain, it would be just expensive, right? It's expensive everywhere. And it's just a question of who's paying.
Well, coming back to smoking, I think the tax raised by cigarettes is something around 7 to 8 billion pounds a year. So I think that it almost pays for itself with the NHS. But other illnesses related to unhealthy lifestyles perhaps don't pay for themselves.
Yeah.
And what about dental care? So I love it how
Ben gives that knowing smile. It's like Massachusetts smile, dental care, yes. All right. Yes. Yeah.
So is it crazily expensive too? And is it usually included in the insurance? So can you get dental care for free? So what's the situation
Well, in
like?
the UK, I know it's not completely free on the NHS. We can get heavily discounted dental care on the NHS. A lot of people, if they want to, for instance, get a root canal done, they go to Hungary or they go to Poland, where it's much cheaper and the quality is just as good.
I know. Actually, my dentist told me that within the last 2 years, he's had many patients from Italy coming here because it's cheaper to fly all the way to Siberia and get your teeth fixed than do that in Italy or in
and the
Europe.
quality is just as good.
So, which says a lot about. And I do know that people in the US do the same thing. Maybe not, they don't go to Eastern Europe, perhaps, but they do go to other countries.
They might go somewhere else. Somebody might go somewhere else. Yeah. Yeah. It's dental is usually it's another aspect of medical, and it's not included in normal health insurance. It's another expense, and if you pay for it yourself, it's of course expensive, quite expensive, and that might, if you know you have a procedure and you know the procedure can be done elsewhere for really cheap, then you just, I guess, make the judgment and make the trip. But
again, a friend of mine, she lives in Boston, so she had to have an implant, and it was for $4,500. In Russia, in a private clinic, it's usually around 1,000, from 1 to 2,000 per
dollars.
Yes,
Dollars, yeah.
yes. I wish it was rubles, but no.
Right. Well, that's still.
I'm sorry. I need to take a minute and go cry in that corner for a second, if you don't mind. But yeah, well, technically in Russia, we can get dental care for free, but you need to go to a public clinic, which is in the neighborhood where you have your registration in. So only in this case, you can have it for free. Although nowadays, I think you still have to pay for the materials, which is, of course, not that much. But again, public clinics do not have good equipment. So they don't get enough funding from the government. Thus, they have old equipment, old materials as a rule. But our private clinics, really, the ones that I have been to, they are fantastic.
Yeah, top class, yeah.
But you have to pay. So, for example, now my plan is, so I've been to a dentist. He's like, okay, to deal with everything we have in here, we need around $2,000. I'm like, cool. Guess what I don't have? $2,000, of course. So now I'm thinking between, getting a loan just to, deal with that.
Wow.
Thank you, Mom, who didn't check her teeth before getting pregnant and while being pregnant. So, that, I was born in Yakutsk, and people in there, so women who give birth, the thing is that they don't get enough vitamins, enough sunshine. Basically, with the food available there, especially at that time, you had to have, and, you had to take special, level of care of your teeth if you want your baby to have good teeth. My mom didn't, so I don't.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah. So, and there is a stereotype, since we're speaking about teeth, that Americans, I don't know about Britain, but the Americans that, crazy with extra white teeth. And in general, they're crazy with, the dental care and, all these preventative measures.
Well, the Americans have a delightful stereotype about British teeth.
Oh, what is it?
Do we?
Yeah, so there is a...
Gary looks surprised.
A lot
like,
of people,
doing?
a lot of people in America laugh at British teeth. I mean, I think it's different now, but the Brits are renowned for having terrible teeth.
Is that so?
Well, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I've heard.
Have you had someone?
I've
never. I
I
must
think
say,
it was in The Simpsons. Actually, I saw a Simpsons episode many years ago. I believe it was The Simpsons where they portrayed the Brits as having terrible teeth.
Wow. Okay.
And Austin Powers. Has anyone seen Austin Powers?
Long time ago.
Long time ago. Yeah, there's a scene there where he breaks a mirror with his bad English teeth.
All right.
How
well,
lovely.
Ben, you're surprised. I consider myself an American and lifelong American, and I can honestly say I have no stereotype about. I don't think I have.
It's okay if you do.
I'm just holding back, Ben. I don't want to offend you.
Well,
I have no concept of.
Interesting, because in Russia, a lot of people have a stereotype about Americans. For example, they have fantastic teeth, always just perfect.
Yeah.
And every time you ask somebody about perfect teeth, they would say something like, "Well, like you see in American movies, it seems that most Americans have perfect teeth."
Okay, well, in American movies, yeah, all right, but real people, I mean, it's not like average Americans are saying, "Man, I gotta have great teeth." Mm-hmm. I mean, just killer white teeth.
So it's mostly like, God, I have to take care of my teeth because I can't afford getting dental care.
That's typically, from what I remember, is the mentality. I think it's...
Ben's got an amazing set of stereotypes here that he's accumulated.
Well, to be fair, when I lived in Vegas, the Sin City, people do all sorts of terrible things to their teeth there. So Sin City is probably not the best representation.
Somehow I didn't think I didn't think of Las Vegas as, man, people's teeth. You should see the way they're living there.
In California, across the border, the teeth are much better from what I saw.
What do they do? What do they do? Well, I don't even, don't get into it.
Are you sure you want to know?
I don't want to know. I'm sure I don't want to know.
Oh God.
A Sin City smile.
Is that a phrase?
No, I'm just making it up.
All right. Okay, good coinage. Yes.
So actually, I have one more question. So when you want to go to a dentist or to any kind of a doctor, do you have to wait for like months and months and months? Or can you get an appointment like for tomorrow or the same day? Or
well, in England, people are on the waiting list for operations for a long, long time. So if you want to have your hip replaced, for instance, you could be waiting 5+ years for that. So that's a downside to the British system. Whereas the American system, if you have the money, you're in the door.
Yeah, I don't associate particularly long waiting, but high cost. I don't know. It depends on the doctor and so forth. I think you may not be able to get in there tomorrow. I mean, I have done occasional very minor medical things, dental things, and it's better to have. Depends on where you live and a whole bunch of other things. Where my mother lives, it's a little bit seasonal, and so people get things done there anyway. It could be harder to get an appointment, but thankfully I haven't had to use the system very much. And by the way, I spent almost my entire adult life, or not half my adult life, uninsured.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's risky. You love risks.
Hey, look at me.
Living on
Risk
the edge.
taker. I mean, you just take one look. You say, man, there's a guy that's living on the edge. Look at that wild look in his eye.
So true. That's exactly what you think when you look at Gary. Yeah.
Right.
Gun-ho Gary.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. That business with cutting glass with your teeth, no problem.
Because I had stories from a friend of mine who lives in Poland, and she's like, when you want to see a specialist, like a cardiologist, you have to wait for like a month or 2 months. I'm like, well, by that time, I wouldn't need a cardiologist, I think. It's either going to pass, pass, or, I won't need any kind of medical help anymore. Whereas in Russia, well, at least in public clinics, usually there's some kind of a quota, so you can wait for like a week. Sometimes, if it's some kind of a specialist that does not have much of a time, maybe, or a lot of people waiting, so it can be like 2 weeks, 3 weeks. If it's private clinic, if it's like a specialist who's much needed, it can be up to a month. But in general, sometimes you can get, to see a GP in a private clinic the next day without a problem. So, yeah, it all depends. But I remember in my childhood, there was a very limited, quota for dental service in children's hospitals. So my parents had to wake up at like 4 or 5 a.m., go stand in line until 7 or 8 when the hospitals, the clinics opened. And there was not, it was not guaranteed that they would get this, it's like an appointment confirmation or something. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Lovely.
What was it like in the Soviet Union? Was it better or was it about the same?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I only know about dental care. Like you had this situation of getting the quota, but I don't know.
I think that the medical system here, I've heard, was probably worked better then, right? They didn't have kind of the brain drain that took some doctors out. I think probably the system was better financed.
I only know that, it was better financed because we did not have private sector as such. So it was good equipment, decent salary at that time. But then everything just went down the hill for some reason. All right. And speaking of health problems, so we have mentioned smoke and how that can lead to, different diseases. So what do you think are the most common diseases in general, and let's say most common causes of death? We do not include COVID right now, I think, but other than that.
Well, I guess obesity, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or complications of obesity.
Yeah.
Heart disease and
Actually, this is the first place is taken by cardiovascular diseases.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what else is there? Cardiovascular and
well, cancers, I guess.
yeah, cancer.
One of the most common.
Yeah.
Yes, they say that in general, the statistics is that 1 in 2 people or 1 in 3 people is going to be affected somehow by cancer, either having someone close or getting it, themselves. So it's so widespread. Actually, I had a conversation with a student of mine on the topic of medical care, and we talked about cancer, how, some people say like, oh, people get cancer more now, like in our age.
All right, I'm touching wood right now.
So, and it's like, it's not really the case. The case is just we have better diagnosis right now. So people just get diagnosed these days compared to 100 years ago.
People live longer.
Yes.
And just a whole lot of things, go into
So
that.
but this is one of the top 10 causes. Then we have, diabetes as well,
Right.
and kidney diseases. So this is like the top 5. So
Yeah.
how can we actually, live longer? So how can we not get any of those horrible diseases and live
Eat
to
your
be
fruits
100?
and veg, go for a run.
Right. Yes.
Happy day.
Right.
You know what?
Yeah, that's.
I remember
good advice.
not directly related to the topic of medicine, but I remember several years ago I came across a book in a bookshop which was called the Miracle of Morning, something like that. So, and it was called How to Get Up Early Every Day and Do Everything You Planned. And I was like, ooh, sounds interesting. I should get it. Only later I found out that the original name was 5 a.m. Miracle. But anyway, so the author says,
Right.
to be
They
energetic.
cut it back. Sales were not too brisk of the book. Yeah.
The author says, to be
morning
energetic and healthy, you have to get up at 5 a.m., drink a smoothie, have some fruit, go for a run, get back, have another fruit, have breakfast. And it's really easy to say when you live in California, for example, but when you live in Siberia with 9 months of winter, this is not what you can easily do. Go for a run in -14. Nah.
Right.
I mean, some people say you have to sleep as much as possible. Some people say you need to.
Well, sleep
wake
is
up at-
important.
Yeah,
Anyway,
sleep is. I mean,
important.
if I can get the opportunity to sleep, I'll take it. I mean,
Always.
I mean,
I feel you, Ben.
Yeah, the sincerity in that expression is amazing. Right.
sleep's important.
There's a man that's ready to sleep
I like
anytime he
sleep.
can.
I will actually. We had a podcast, an episode. I think it was with Maria and Ken, and we talked about sleep deprivation. And you'd be surprised, but if you get less than 6 hours of sleep, on a regular basis,
that's bad.
it increases the risk of a stroke by 4.5 times.
Yeah.
Right.
So and at the same time, you can get even diabetes as a result of sleep deprivation.
Sleep is a serious thing for sure. Yeah.
So get up at 5 a.m. No.
No.
Well, get up at 5 a.m. if you went to bed at
5 p.m.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you'd have to go to bed at 8.
Well, that's a problem
30.
with this whole new hustle culture. So if everyone knows what hustle culture is, people say get up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., get through the day, hustle. But
Productive.
Yeah. And obviously it's good to be productive, but maybe not having enough sleep is not an efficient way to go about your life.
No, that would be an inefficient way.
Yeah.
Overall. Yeah.
Yeah, because being productive is cool and all, but
Yeah.
you don't get enough sleep.
Well, you won't even be productive. I mean,
Fair enough.
if you're running at 6 hours sleep, you will specifically not be productive.
Some people are fortunate in that they just don't need
Some
much
people,
sleep.
yeah,
Some
but most
people,
people,
yeah. I mean, for instance, the former controversial British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, she famously only slept 3 hours a night.
But that's more of an exception
Yeah.
That's an exception for sure.
rather than a rule. Yeah. So, okay, we're going to actually put it off until just several minutes later. But I want to mention two more categories of people. So who are hypochondriacs? And are you one of them? Who wants to explain?
Well, hypochondriac is somebody who thinks that they have many diseases. They're very worried about their condition. They read about something, some new popular ailment, and they assume that they have it because they have some symptom that is described. So they think, well, I have that too. And so they're hypochondriac is just somebody that thinks they have many diseases when they may not have any or just one. Or
Have you ever been one? Are you one?
Only occasionally on Google. So let's say if something happens and you type in on Google, oh, what's this problem?
You kind of anticipated my question, because I had a question about the second category of people, and now, so in addition to hypochondriacs, we now have cyberchondriacs, who are people who Google their symptoms,
Yeah.
and then they think they have
bad idea.
never Google your symptoms.
Yeah.
Yeah. That reminds me of, I think it was Three Men in a Boat, when the man got a medical encyclopedia and he realized that he had absolutely every single disease in there except for one, which was the maid's something. I don't remember, but every single one of them.
Handmaid syndrome, yes. Right.
It's like maid. No, I don't remember the name, but yeah. So,
have you ever heard of Three Men in a Boat?
I've heard of it, but don't know anything about it, to be honest.
It's a thing that's...
I have heard of it.
I maybe had heard of it, but it's a thing here,
Yeah.
right? People, I think it's because it had sort of a socialist kind of undertone. It was part of the Soviet. With my first year that I came here, I had to use this textbook, English textbook, that it was straight out of I can't even remember the Arachian. Was it Arachian?
Arachian.
Yeah, Arachian.
The Holy Bible of everyone who's studying at the Faculty of Foreign Languages.
Yes.
Well,
that's where.
How do you think I know that? You know.
Yeah. Well, there you go. You come by it honestly. Yeah. Well, anyway, and 3 men in a boat was, and some.
I know.
It was
second yearbook.
And everybody said, well, that's I understood that was something Soviet approved, right?
You bet it. So, but yeah, we actually had to learn an extract from it by heart.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
That was not the best textbook, but it's still being used widely. Yeah.
Is it still there? Yeah.
Oh yeah.
This was 1995. I thought, okay, well, surely they're.
It's going to be there for quite a long time, and it's been there for quite a long time. Yeah, the Holy Bible of the Faculties of Foreign Languages all across the Soviet countries. I thought it was Siberia, but no. Whoever I talked to in different parts of Russia, even in Kazakhstan,
Well, sure. If it's it would be pan-Soviet approved. Yes. Right.
All right. So, and now, what about living to be 100? So you said eat your fruit and veggies. Go for a run. So, but there are some places in the world that in general have more centenarians than any other place. So let's say Okinawa in Japan, or there is a couple of islands. There are a couple of islands in Greece. So what makes them different from other places? Why are there more people who live longer there?
Well, part of it may be like diet. The famous Greek Mediterranean diet is supposed to be, it's low cholesterol, which is heart disease and things like that. And so it's a healthy in that regard. I read a thing about that, and it's like it's old communities. And so people have a sense of community. They belong there, and it's, besides it's a health, good air and, sunshine and all of these things that are kind of favorable. So there's a lot of factors there that would, it helps socially, the social part of it, which I think is a commonality with some parts of Japan, is that.
Actually, so these places have been called the blue zones. And there's one scientist who did a research on that, so on the blue zones. And his team and him, they kind of came up with, Power 9. So 9 things, 9 aspects of your life that can help you, to live longer. And I would like to mention these 9. I would like us to discuss them, so what we think. So the first power out of this Power 9 is move naturally. Meaning you don't need to, do a workout on the machines or, go for a run, do a marathon, but move naturally. So what do you think about it?
To be honest, I don't see a problem with that. I mean, as long as you don't just sit there all day.
Right. Well, if you're, like somebody that's living in those blue zones, why are they called blue? What's blue?
Maybe it's about the water, because all of these places have access to water. Because there are places in Puerto Rico, in California, but the place in California is also has access to water. So maybe that's why they're called blue zones. Okay.
But moving naturally, I think the main thing is probably to move, which is the problem with older people, that they lose some mobility. And
look, now we work online. It's a problem for all of us.
Yeah. No, it's a problem for everybody.
I just had a thought, because maybe if you live by the sea, maybe the rhythm of the sea perhaps gives you a better circadian rhythm. I'm not sure. Maybe it has something to do with that.
But I have, how they say, you have to take, let's say, 10,000 steps per day to be generally healthy. This, I do not know, the stereotype or just the saying, but I have a question. So if I, let's say, take this 10,000 steps, okay, perfect. But what if I do that on the highly polluted streets of Krasny Prospekt? Does that have any kind of positive effect on my health?
Well, I would go one street over, either Michurina or.
Well, you get the point, Gary. It's not about the street itself, but in general.
Krasny Prospekt is bad, but it's just too many cars by proportion. But I think the main thing is is just the activity level has to stay up, has to stay quite high. And when you get older, then you just have to sort of consciously decide to do that because you don't have to go to work and whatever the thing is. So you have to force yourself kind of to do that, whether it's on a machine or whether but I think the main thing is to be in motion, but maybe moving naturally would be even better, right? But
so the second one is 80% rule, which means that you have to finish your lunch, dinner, whatever, when you're 80% full, so that you don't overeat. Which of course brings the question, how do you understand it's 80% and not 50 or 60? But okay. So what do you think?
I mean, when I eat, I just eat like crazy.
Ben's doing the
Stop your face
120% rule. He eats 120% of what any normal person.
When I eat, I go in.
Right, yeah. When he's eating.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember you told me that in a hotel where you worked.
Right. If I was running, I'd be running as fast as I could. I'm eating.
Yeah.
Go away. Leave me alone.
Or running to food. You never know. To get food.
That's right. Make your motion toward the food. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my. All right. So the third one.
So the idea is just quit before you're full.
Yeah.
Right.
So because I know that it takes some time for the body to understand that it's full. So it's better to. That you can measure, right? Am I full?
Yeah.
Ben, looking at you now, right?
I mean, it just sounds really boring, to be honest.
Well, it is. We don't promise you excitement in this. They're not saying live a long, exciting life.
Yeah.
It's saying live a long, incredibly boring, tedious life on some Greek island. That's how you do it.
If I see those pilmeni, they're gone.
Right, that's right. Kiss those pilmeni. Right,
Oh, now I understand how to get Ben to places. Like, to advance. There's going to be pilmeni there. It's like, I'm there.
Yeah, the pilmeni bar, the all-you-can-eat pilmeni bar.
Yeah.
Right, that's what got him. Yeah, Ben was he was doing so good until that all-you-can-eat pilmeni bar opened.
Buffets are amazing. I live for the buffet.
Do you really? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
When it's around.
It's like,
yeah.
Wow.
It's,
Okay.
all right. So the third one is belong. So meaning you have to find some kind of a community where you belong. And it goes together with the next one, which is right tribe. So you have to find the right community, not somebody who, takes you down and make you, subconsciously do some kind of, have bad habits or whatever, lead an unhealthy life. But yeah, so belong and right tribe. So what do you think? I think, Gary, you have mentioned it not long ago.
Yeah, I think I just mentioned it right now. But it is important to have that social connection. Ideally it would be something that maybe it was all your life, but if you can find the connections later in your life, that would seem like a positive,
I mean, I guess, people help each other. You can't just do everything alone.
Yeah. So the next one is purpose, meaning so people who have some kind of a purpose that, makes them get out of the bed in the morning, they tend to live 7 years longer than those who don't.
Yeah.
Have you found the purpose? Do you have a purpose?
Yeah.
I do. Yeah, I do.
Great.
Yeah.
So the next one is leaning towards plant-based food. So rather than meat-based food. So what do you think about that?
This is a very controversial subject. Some people say eat only meat. So I don't know if you know Joe Rogan, the famous podcaster in America. He strictly he strictly eats
not to
meat.
talk about other podcasts.
Jordan Peterson.
Yes, unaccustomed as we are to talking about other podcasts.
Exactly, we're not not endorsing other podcasts.
Right. That's right. In fact, I'll endorse against Joe. No, I don't have. I've never.
Okay, but you were saying.
But
so,
Jordan Peterson. Are you familiar with Jordan Peterson?
I am familiar with him.
He strictly eats meat. He has a
I think that's
diet.
a really,
How old is
really
he?
bad idea.
Well, what is he? 50s, 60s, something like that.
That's a bad idea.
Yeah, that doesn't
people-
sound like he's going to
I know
make it to
there is-
70.
There is a diet like
Well, who
that.
knows? I mean, he's a very skinny guy, but he has health problems. He does.
Well, if you eat only
well,
meat,
Well,
duh.
He
Yes,
didn't always.
I know you're a really smart guy. You're on podcasts. Well, let's use that powerful brain and think about.
Well, no, he didn't always
Yes.
strictly eat a carnivorous diet. He started eating a carnivorous diet after he had health problems, and he says it's cured him in some ways. But some people say the vegan diet's the best. Other people say the fruitarian diet's the best. I mean, if you look at Steve Jobs, he became obsessed with eating really healthy, especially when he developed his cancer. And yeah, I mean, there's so many different opinions on diet.
Yeah, it's a very controversial topic.
As far as the general principle, I think that sounds like at least a good general principle.
Maybe not, switch completely to plant-based food, but,
Right, cut it back,
I watched a YouTube channel of this Australian cyclist. He's a very either loved or hated. He's like hated. He's like Marmite, if you know that expression.
Oh, yeah.
But he is a strict vegan. He says you have to eat as many carbs and as many natural sugars as possible, and that you should stay away from fats if you can, except for natural fats. And he says the reason why people are tired every day is because they don't eat carbs, they don't eat sugars, and some people would go to war with him over that. But he's a very healthy guy. He gets a lot of people on weight loss programs and is very successful.
Okay. Well, we're not getting deeply into that. So the next rule is loved ones first, meaning, you have to spend time with your loved ones, with your family, rather than, work too much, for example.
Sounds like a good principle.
Yeah.
I think this is if you have seen all these interviews with people, who are in their 90s and they ask about their regrets, a lot of them say, like, I wish I had spent more time with the family rather than staying, at work until late. So, yeah. We have two more. So the next one is called downshift, which means de-stress. So find some ways to de-stress and reduce stress in your life.
Oh, absolutely. That's
Definitely.
probably the most important of them
We
all.
should put it at power one,
Yeah.
de-stress.
Yeah.
It's important, yeah. Stress is a killer.
It is. Actually, if we are to believe the statistics, more than 40% of all the diseases, minor and major, can be, stress related. Well, I mean, not directly, but then stress.
Right, they're stress
leads to,
aggravated. Stress is just an aggravator of everything. Yeah. It's just, it puts tension on the whole system. Where,
Yeah, exacerbates everything. Yeah.
Systems like
And
fighting.
the
Anyway, go ahead.
last one is one of the most controversial ones because it's called wine at 5. And according to these researchers, they say that moderate drinkers tend to live longer than non-drinkers, but moderate. So I think this is important to highlight.
Well, in France, people tend to have a high life expectancy and they drink a lot of wine there. Well, not a lot of wine, but they have a glass or two every day, maybe a cigarette. They live a pretty long life.
That's it. Yeah, and just look at them.
Yeah.
We had a very heated debate about it with Mike in our episode about alcohol. So, and he explained how that works and how this is no more than a marketing strategy of companies.
I think, of course, you can find studies on everything, but I think that they may have kind of debunked the wine story, right? That in fact, if you actually do the standard, clinical way of doing it, that it doesn't really do that. It sounds like it should, and the French certainly think, along with their cigarettes.
Yeah.
Well, this is what the Power 9 is, and then you can choose whatever principle, relates best to you. So, all right. So that was the Big Apple School podcast. And today we discussed the healthcare and health and medical care. And I want to ask you, Gary, Ben, so what do you think is the main, let's say, idea or the thought that you're getting from this episode? So for you personally, what are you going to remember about this episode after we're done?
Don't break your leg in America.
Right.
Well, don't have health problems in America, I should say.
yeah.
Like, you know, not only...
Be healthy in America.
And don't call an ambulance.
Right.
Ever.
Let's see. What's the main thing I'm going to take away? Talk to me tomorrow. Yes, I'll know.
Yeah.
I'll know what I thought about her. Maybe.
So
maybe in an
next
hour.
time we make a podcast with Gary, the first thing I'm going to ask, no matter what the topic is going to be, is Gary, what do you remember
Yeah. Well.
about our episode?
I mean, yeah. Right. That'll. If you think this is a blank answer, just try that. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Now I completely remember everything. I still can't.
All right. Actually, I'm thinking about what mine would be.
Yeah. What's yours? Come on. What's yours? What's your takeaway here?
Be responsible about your teeth.
Be responsible about your teeth. Okay.
Yeah, don't go to a dentist once every 5 years. You know, do that regularly.
Right. Yeah.
As someone who's about to get a loan for that, you know, a piece of advice.
Right. Yes. Okay. We're closing with a wise piece of advice.
Exactly. So,
Right.
I'm full of wisdom.
Right. Here it is, distilled to a perfect form.
Full of wisdom and wisdom teeth.
Yes.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good
let's
one.
hit the stop button right now. Yes.
All right. So, dear listeners, thank you for listening. And remember, if you struggle to understand our conversation, you're always welcome to our website, which is...
We also struggled.
Well,
you're
Gary,
not alone.
Then you are welcome to our website,
Right. Yes, I'll be on the website.
which is...
Which is www.bigapple.com.
/podcast.
Yes, I was going to... If you hadn't cut me off, I would have said that.
So yeah, you can find full scripts of each episode there, so you can read and listen, and that's just amazing. So also, if you want to get more content which will help you learn English, you can follow us on social media such as Instagram, VK, YouTube, Telegram, and so on. Just again, search our name, which is Gary.
Which is my name or the name of the podcast?
The name of the school, Gary.
Oh, Big Apple School. Big Apple School. Ben, what do you think the name of the school is? Right, yes.
For those who have missed it.
Yes.
All right, so that was Katya, and my guests for today were
Gary
and
Benjamin.
So stay tuned, and we'll see you around.